Are you looking to get better? Are you looking to, maybe get a little bit more help than just watching videos? Consider coming over to my Patreon page. My Patreon page has been up for a couple years now, maybe more than that. I can't even remember, to be honest. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. I get to show off a lot of things that aren't on YouTube. I do live streams where you can either participate or ask questions ahead of time. I do specialized videos. You can get one-on-one help, send me photos of your targets for help evaluating them. Whatever it is that you need, my Patreon allows you to do it. I'm going to show you some clips here from the last live stream that I just had. They go for anywhere from an hour to a couple hours, depending on how many people are there, how many questions are asked. And I think this will give you a good idea of the content you can find. If you think it's of value, I'd encourage you to go to the description below, click on the Patreon link, and sign up. Appreciate you watching. Here you go.
Okay, so here, let me show you guys something. If you haven't seen already, I launched a website right before Nationals. And so there's a lot of stuff on here, and I show this to the people on Patreon for two reasons. One, there's nothing advantageous. Everything on here is the same stuff that's on YouTube. There is nothing that I show you guys, like you guys get all the commercial-less videos and all the extra stuff and all that. So like none of that's on here. So I don't want anyone to feel like they're getting less than what they're on Patreon. At some point, if I have my own back end for this, I will let everybody on Patreon know, and I will 100% make it advantageous for the people that have been supporting me to move over. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's a pain in the ass, to be honest. So Patreon is just fine for now. But there's a couple things on here that might be just a little different. Like I do have some articles in here. Some of this is also on Patreon, but there's a few things like safety and stuff, but very, very, very little, I would say. And then if you wanted to, there is a comprehensive list of where to shoot F-class matches that I've been putting together, and I've been getting input off Accurate Shooter from people to keep adding matches. And you can see I have them all listed by state here. So if you are looking for a match, these are all places that host some kind of a high power F-class match that you can attend. So I think that's pretty cool. And then I do have merchandise if anybody ever wants it, which are different shirts and stickers and stuff and sweatshirts. So I've had some people buy some of that stuff, and it's kind of fun for me at matches to see it and stuff like that. So otherwise, a lot of I've covered this, and you guys got to see these videos, but this is the what I use stuff. And then you can see I actually have links to everything on here. So if you've watched these videos, so this is the what reloading tools do I use, and then what shooting gear do I use. And you'll see there's links to everything here. So if you have questions about what I'm using, this is literally what I'm using. So I do reviews on a ton of stuff, and people always say, well, yeah, but what are you actually using? This is everything on here is like my daily driver stuff. So if something changes, this gets changed, but it's very rare. Like right now, this is pretty set for me, but it gives you a good idea. And a lot of people have trouble finding a lot of this stuff. So this gives you a good idea of where to go to look for any of it. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this was out there as a resource. And of course,
I ordered mine from GT Accuracy in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's where mine's coming from. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg Taylor does good stuff. I've sent a lot of people his way. And for anybody watching this, if you're looking to get a board in, I would definitely check with Greg Taylor first. You can find him on Accurate Shooter under Greg Taylor, and then GT Accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, he carries DEMA stocks, and he carries a ton of different board ins. So like I had a buddy just buy 2 TR setups from him. I think they were BRMs, if I remember right. So he bought 2 of those, and Greg's getting them nitrided and then shipping them out. And but yeah, Greg's a good guy. I've bought stocks from him in the past, and I know plenty of people that have bought actions. A buddy of mine bought two sequential serial numbers, because a lot of times Greg will get sequential serial numbers in. So if you're looking to get a couple of them, he'll have sequential serial numbers for you and stuff like that. I really love if you guys are ever looking for new funnels. So this is the short action customs. And the nice thing about it is you don't have to order like a particular length. It actually is.
Oh,
yeah.
So like it comes that size, and then you can go 1.5 inches or 3 inches. I was playing around with it a little bit longer, but what I found is that if it's a little bit longer, so like everybody, I occasionally double charge something, and
really?
because I'm almost at capacity on my case, I can pretty much see the powder coming out if I double charge.
Oh, okay.
Whereas that extra 1.5 inches, it's just low enough. So before I forget, I want to talk to everybody because I know a lot of people will be watching this later, but I want to tell them about a potentially dangerous situation that you just have to be aware of when you're shooting, because it's a situation that you can easily overlook. And it happened to me yesterday, which is why I'm thinking of it, because I have this piece of brass sitting here. So yesterday I went, shot at 1,000. I loaded up 50 rounds and I'm shooting and doing some testing. And I load one and I hit the trigger and nothing happened. I just like nothing. I didn't even feel like a primer hit. Like I didn't really feel anything. And I thought, oh, that's weird. Like, and in my head, my first thought, and what a lot of people would probably think is, oh, I didn't pull the old brass out. Like, I forgot to chamber a new round. So I pull the bolt, I open it up, I look, like there's no powder or anything. So it isn't like I pulled a bullet. I pull the brass out and, sure enough, I've got a fired primer. Like, looks normal, no big deal. I'm not really worried about it. And I go to grab the next round and I thought, I wonder if I just forgot powder in that round and just didn't feel the primer go off. So, like the best safety that you can ever have is making sure that your barrel is empty, right? So I thought, well, God, that's really weird. But before I load another round, so sure enough, I pull the bolt, I lean my gun down a little bit, and I can't see down the barrel. And I'm like, son of a bitch, there's a bullet down there, just a little bit ahead of the land. And so luckily I always carry just a really cheap cleaning rod in my range bag, and I run it down the barrel, and sure enough, popped a bullet out. But like that's one of those things where like you've got to be mentally aware when you're shooting, because in a testing situation, maybe it's a little easier to just be relaxed and be like, oh, okay, like no big deal. That could have easily been a very, very dangerous situation if I had just loaded another round, like in a match where you're rushing or you're not really, you're focused and you think, oh, I forgot to chamber the next round, and you put another one in. If that first bullet got far enough ahead where, the next round can clear and chamber, you're gonna have some problems. So, that's sort of my public service announcement for the day is, if you pull the trigger and it doesn't go bang, and you're not 110% sure why, it takes no time to pull your bolt and look down the barrel and make sure you can see daylight before you chamber the next round. It's really cheap insurance. So I just thought I would point that out, because I know when I was starting out, one of the number one questions is, how do you read mirage? How do you read wind? I know people ask me all the time, Eric, all the other people that are on the line, like, what are you looking at? What are you doing? That kind of thing. My awesome range flags. And we're going to assume that you are shooting from, let's just say, dead middle, right? Now, traditionally, middle of a field, especially at something like a national event where it's really wide, this is going to be an advantageous position somewhere in this section. And I'll explain why in a minute. But what I told him is, on any given range, if there's wind blowing, and now I'm not talking about mirage, this is strictly, well, now somewhere else out on the line, I'm going to be looking, and what I'm looking for is I want to find a pole and a flag where I see almost none of the flag, whether it's coming at me or whether it's going away from me. I want to see this, right? Because what does that show me? That shows me very subtle changes in direction, right? And learn stuff from both of them. And you kind of look out there and you go, okay, let's see. That one I think looks like a good power flag, and that one's a good direction flag. And I'm going to watch those for a second. Okay, that one's there, that one's there. And then I hear the guy shoot, bang. Okay, I'm going to look on my scope. Okay, it was a right 9. Okay, those are the same. Those are the same. Bang. Goes down, comes up, center X. Okay, well, those two flags didn't really move. He made an adjustment off of it. He went dead center. Those might be pretty good. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Now, in those situations, I kind of knew what condition I was waiting for. I kind of had an idea of how long a condition would sit on it. And it was a pretty fast moving set of conditions. So I had to make the conscious decision to wait whatever it took until I saw what I was comfortable with. I took a couple really fast siders on one of them and then just ran as fast as I could. I mean, literally, it was like that target wasn't even up and shots were going down. I mean, it was, like you're almost catching the target as it's going down, because in my head, I was like, well, I've got about 3 minutes for this condition before it's going to get really ugly on me. And, but I knew that I had 3 minutes to work with multiple ways of shooting those flags. Try to figure out how to just run them and just chase the spotter. Learn how to do relative calls. Learn how to make cold calls. Like I go out and practice at my 1,000-yard range, and you can practice a couple ways. One is you get sighted in, right? Okay, there's what the flags are doing. I know what's going on. I know I'm hitting center, and then I'm going to put my head down, and I'm not going to look at anything. And then I pull my head up 30 seconds or a minute later. Okay, I know what it was doing. Here's what it is doing. I'm going to try making a cold call on this. Boom. Okay. Like I was pretty good in that span of time. That didn't teach me anything. Like it taught me how to do some things really well, but it didn't really allow me to grow as a competitor. And so it wasn't until I was okay with losing that I really started learning in some of these conditions. But you just have to take the shots, and then you have to be able to learn from them. Okay, the flag's doing this, it's doing that. The last shot I held here, I'm going to hold there again. Bang. Okay, well, it just went 2 more lines downwind. Why? Smart. Like the system itself has been really stable. I've run it on my A&D. I've run on my Sartorius. I gave the Creedmoor back to my buddy because I'll be honest, that's a great scale, but it's just so frustrating to use because it's so slow for what I'm used to. It really is a great scale, but it's really slow. So just got to get used to that. But overall, the system's been really, really good. But I know people are always asking, like, oh, do I need to buy it? And I think Randy brought up a perfect point. Like, I just bought my auto trickler. Great. Like, there is nothing wrong with an auto trickler. Like, people have been loading on them for a long time. Adam makes great stuff. It's just different. And I think what's good is you're going to see, a lot of price points start opening up for different levels of equipment in the powder game. And I think that's something that's really been sorely lacking, right? Because, like I like RCBS stuff, but I think they kind of missed the mark with that Matchmaster. I think they tried to hit some price points, but I don't know that they necessarily did it with that particular machine. Like I love the Charge Masters. I think they're fantastic. And again, I think for the money, like they hit a very good price point, but it was too easy to say, well, if I'm going to buy a Matchmaster, I'm just going to go ahead and get an auto trickler or something. So, but I think you're going to start seeing, he's already said this whole system is going to be about $1,000. You can pick up a V4 for $500 or so. So you've got a price difference there. Now you're gaining things with one versus the other, but neither one is a bad option, right? Like it's not like one of them doesn't do the job. They just do it differently, and some are going to meet the needs for people in one direction or the other. You still have super trickler, obviously, and it's kind of in the middle. It fills a different niche for people. So I think this is what they always say, it's a great time to be alive, right? Like it's a great time to be a shooter because there's so much innovation coming, and I think that 3D printing has been the biggest, like, just rocket ship for a lot of things that have come out in our field lately, because it gives people a way to test and test and test before they go to some kind of a aluminum system, a CNC system, injection molded, whatever. So I think that's been really great for our industry. There's going to be things that, whether it's price or whatever, that people, may not want to spend on the ingenuity. That's great. You know what? Adam still makes great stuff. I know that there are some other systems out there that are sub $300. Like I've got this thing that I've been testing, and it's a big system. It takes up a ton of room on your bench, but for under $300, it's actually pretty effective. It's a he's got a new controller coming out, but it's actually pretty effective. And for somebody that wants to spend 200 and something bucks on a trickle system, it's actually not a bad way to go. So I think there are a lot of great systems out there now. This 100% fits my needs because I get like basically zero overthrows. It's stupid fast. It's easy to use. I can do ladder tests on it. I don't have to fiddle around with it. Like, so that it checks a ton of boxes for me. It works on the Sartorius. So, like, it happens to fit my needs. So I like, as much as I love this, I would say if the V4 is meeting your needs, that's fantastic. Like, don't feel like you have less than because it's not the latest thing, like same thing with the Andy scan or people that still use a lab radar. Like, do I want to haul a lab radar around? Hell no. But, like, if I already own an Andy scan, like, there's probably less compelling reasons to switch over. Like, I wouldn't sweat it too much. So I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. And I'm as guilty as anybody of wanting, I'm a shiny object guy. So, I really am a shiny object guy. But, I think that it's really easy in this industry to get caught up with shiny objects. And I think there are lots of great shiny objects that do some really cool things. But I also recognize that not everybody needs what those things do, so, and that's totally fine. So I don't hold it against anybody with that kind of stuff. Range, same thing. So do you only shoot a match in that temperature range? No. He goes, okay. So once again, why do you have temperature strips on there? So I said, okay, I'm going to try running without them for a while. So I've run without them since not long after that. So what I have found, for whatever it's worth, is I don't find myself looking for the temperature at all anymore. I used to. Like when we were at nationals. So in the past, I've always looked. Like it's sort of been one of those things where if I'm shooting, I'm always kind of glancing at it, like where's my temperature range? Like, oh, am I okay? Am I okay? And it's just never it's never really, like, it's always just been part of my routine. So then after I stopped using them for a little while, I found myself not looking. And I will say that in a weird way, it was pretty freeing at nationals this year to not see the temperature strips. Now, that's very rare that the guns don't have enough time to cool down. But even at that, I don't have any choice. Like, if my gun's really hot and we're in Phoenix and it's 110 degrees and I have to shoot another relay in 35 minutes, well, I'm going to put my barrel cooler in, and whatever it's down to, it's going to be down to. Like, I can't make it cool any faster than it is. So from that aspect, I just have found that I don't miss the temperature strips. It's honestly one less thing that I have to worry about when I'm shooting. It's one less thing I have to worry about when I'm putting together a new barrel. Like I just put this barrel on the gun yesterday. One less thing to worry about. So that's just where I've gone with temperature strips. I mean, it's very common to see stuff like that. And I think it's one of the big things, that I think all shooters are, these competitive shooters are sort of drawn to. It's sort of that moth to a light thing, right? Like, oh, this thing can shoot faster. I need to make it shoot faster. Like, what is this cartridge capable of? Like, oh, guys are shooting it at 3,000. Great. Like, I need to be that fast if I want to be competitive. 100% not true. I mean, I'll take, 100%.
I learned that way back. It's like, I don't care if it shoots 2,600. If it's accurate and consistent, I'm good.
Yeah. 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 And it's, like even to this day, mentally it's still hard sometimes because I'm like, oh, I'm only shooting in the low 2,900s, and I know at least half a dozen guys that I'm competing against on a regular basis that have their PRCW somewhere between 2,960 and 3,100. So, like that's almost, 80 up to 80 feet per second difference. And on a 180 something grain bullet, 80 feet per second is a lot of deflection. It buys you that much more mistakes.
Buys you more recoil too.
It does buy you more recoil, and it does force you to buy more barrels. But definitely you get barrel burners that way. But I mean, it's I 100% will shoot whatever the gun tells me shoots the best. And like even in my PRCW, if that's like when I shot last year with that improved cartridge that I was shooting, that improved necked up 6.5, and I mean I could put a ton of powder in that thing, and I shot Southwest and Nationals. No, I didn't shoot Southwest. I shot Nationals and then Southwest this year with it. And I shot both of those in the 2875 range, which is, basically like a low Shaheen, right? Well, I appreciate that. And you and obviously everybody else on Patreon here, I really encourage, one of the big benefits that you have being here on Patreon is direct access to me for questions. There is a messaging service in Patreon. You can send me messages. If I don't know the answer, the great thing is like there's been people that have asked me things and I honestly don't know. And I've gone to some of my other friends, whether it's Eric or somebody else, and said, hey, I need help. Somebody's asking a question I don't know, but at least I'm able to get that and get it directly with somebody and have a conversation. So don't be afraid if you have questions. With that, I'm going to head out, but I appreciate it. And you guys have a good day.
Merry
We'll
Christmas.
talk later. All right. Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Good to meet you, Pete.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.